There we go. Today we're going to be talking about how to work with lists and unordered lists. Does anyone know what a list is and an unordered list? What the difference between the two are? Akira?
Ordered is, you could specify, I think, and it's numerical.
Okay.
And unordered is whichever you type first, and it's bulleted or something.
Yeah, yeah. Ordered lists they have some type of ordered number by it, like 1, 2, 3, or if you're familiar with outlines that you had to do for your English professors or English teachers, you have the I, the double I, the triple I, the IV, right? All of those you can use in making outlines. Ordered list and unordered list. So what we're going to do here today is we're going to talk about unordered list and ordered list and how to use them. So what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and open up Visual Studio Code, and you can just go to your NMC folder, and when you go to the top up here and you'll say File, Open Folder, you can click over here in this icon that says New Folder and just create a new folder to store today's code. You could call it Week 4 Samples, right? You could call it any of that. Once you've got that set up, click Open, okay? And you're going to come up here and you're going to click New Icon, and you're going to type index.html, okay? And you're going to hit Enter. And when that comes up, you're going to do HTML:5 and hit Enter. All right? That should get you pretty much ready to go. You have a capability within Visual Studio Code where you can preview. Okay? So if you click Show Preview, over here on the right, it's going to give you an address. Now, does anyone know, real quick, what 127.0.0.1 represents? Does anyone know what IP address that is? I'm going to stretch you a little bit. You know what IP addresses are? Okay, an IP address it's an address to your machine. It's assigned to it. And if we break this down, there are certain addresses that are always assigned to your machine. And 127.0.0.1 is called localhost or home. It refers to your machine. So if you type in http://127.0.0.1 3000, that is a port, and that is in reference to, let's see, I think there's like 65,000 ports available through your processor, and those ports, they align off an IP address. So common ports that you may be familiar with are port 80, which is by default used by web servers to display a web page. Port 443 is a port used for secure socket layer, or HTTPS. Here, Visual Studio Code has created a port to actually a server to run their code on. And so it is 127.0.0.1 3000 index. Now here's the interesting thing. This is a live server, so you could type in some text here, and it's going to make it live so you can see it automatically. If you want, you can copy this address and open up a Chrome browser, and you can just run it from there just so you can see it. Okay? All right, I'm going to close this document for right now. And today, of course, we're talking about ordered and unordered lists. To create a ordered list, you would use the OL. Everyone say OL? okay? And then for the list item, it's li. And the interesting thing about the list item is it's the same tag, whether you're using an OL tag or an unordered tag, a UL. So I'm going to just type test li, whoops, li test 2 li test 3. If I save that, go back to my page, you can see that because I've made it an ordered list, the default value that it puts in front of it is a number. Does everyone see that? Okay. If we did the same thing, we'll copy this. Actually, I'm just going to copy just the list items. I'm going to go right below it, and I'll type UL for unordered list. We'll paste in the same values. What do you think it's going to produce this time? Will it produce numbers, or will it produce something else? Yeah, it produces bullets. So this is the default way for creating ordered and unordered list items. Okay. Let's add some style to it. So I'm going to go over here to the top inside of my head tag. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to type style. I'm sorry. Type link. There we go. Type link, choose CSS, hit enter, and by now you guys should have created a link tag. So you have the relationship attribute that says this is going to be a style sheet, and you have the href attribute, which is navigating to where the style is located. You'll notice on my document list over here that I've got things ordered a little bit differently. I'm putting my style in a CSS folder. And that's actually considered best practice. You don't want to put everything right at the same layer, because then it gets very confusing what you have at each document. So I've got my style sheet there. I'm going to go ahead and save it. Is everyone with me so far? Okay. I'm going to go over to my style CSS, and we have nothing in it. So the way we'll address the style is we can say UL for unordered list. That is our attribute. We'll do the curly brackets. Then we're going to say list style type. And we have several types available. And this is the great thing about using Visual Studio Code. I love the fact that it automatically gives me all of the different types that I could use. So I'm going to choose a square for my unordered list. Now let's go back and see what happens over here. Well, if you can see it, the bullet has now changed to a square. Okay? And of course we could change this, and we could say, let's make it a circle. Go back and look at it, now it's circles. Okay? So this gives us the ability to handle what types of ordered and unordered. Let's go ahead and add another CSS selector here, and we'll use the ordered list. And I'm going to specify that my list style type this time is going to be upper Roman. When we take a look over here at our class, we can see that it's upper Roman now. Okay? Let me squish this in, because I think it might be better if I just do the preview here on the same page. Let's see, where is it at? There we go. Slide that over. So we can see different values that you can use. We can also, of course, change this to, we could say lower Roman, right? We could say lower Greek. And now you got the Greek alphabet. Alpha, beta, gamma. Y'all know your Greek letters? No? All right. There's a lot of these that you can choose. You can also set that your style, that you don't want anything. So you could just say none. And now the ordered list has none. That doesn't really make sense though, because if we think about it, if we're using an ordered list, we specifically want to display some type of representation. But you can do decimal with a leading 0. You can do things like that. Let's go over here to our circle though, and we'll change that one to none. And so that actually affects the style, the layout of that particular element. Any questions so far? Okay. So that covers your unordered and your ordered. But let's say that for some reason we want to create an outline for a book. Okay? So I'm going to come over here to, oops, close those. Close that one. I'm going to come over here to my ordered list, and I'm going to say, let's see. Let's give an outline like what we have in our textbook. We're going to give an outline for what happens for week 1, week 2, and week 3, right? I'm going to change my style though for the ordered list back to let's see, upper Roman. Oops, Roman. There we go. But how do we get those sub-units? How do we get those to appear? Well, one of the things that you can do when you lay this out is you can say, here's my list, and then underneath it I can have another ordered list, and inside of that I could have another list item. But we know that the indented item doesn't necessarily need to have another capital I, right? Well, especially if you've got multiple items here. So like, what would happen in a week? I'm going to go to class. I'm going to go to work, and maybe go to worship, right? But again, how do we deal with this? We want this to change. Well, what you can do here under your style, you'll notice that I've got OL. I can actually do this. I can say OL, list style, type, and I could say lower Roman. But that's not really what we use for an outline, right? We often use upper alpha. And so now I have recreated that list ordering process. Well, what if we want to go even a step lower? What would be something that you might do at class? Listen to a lecture. LI, what's something else you might do?
Take notes.
Take notes. LI, fall asleep. No one does that, right? All right. But let's go back again to our process. Well, what do you think it is? It's actually OL, 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 right? List style type. And I think for the for outline style, at this point, it's lower Roman, isn't it? Right? So this is a methodology you can use for laying out an outline style. Any questions so far? Notice, what I want you to notice here, where'd my mouse go? There it is. What I want you to notice here is the triplicate of OLs. This tells us something in that this parent object contains this object, which contains this object, right? There's a definite sequence to how it's laid out. If we think about this and we go over to our index, we might even, embed this OL into something like an article. So I'm going to take that article, I'm going to go down here to underneath the OL and paste that in. And there's a nice thing you can do here within Visual Studio Code. You can actually format the document and force it to automatically be pretty when you're looking at it, right? So I've got my article, but I'm going to create a class, and this class attribute, I'm going to call it tasks. How about weekly task, right? I want to say something here. There's multiple ways that you can actually create the names for classes. If you put a space, you've actually made it 2 classes. Okay? But if you want it to be descriptive, use an underscore, use a dash, or use camel case. Does everyone know what a camel case is? Okay. When you look at a camel, you look at the back of it, and it's got a hump, right? Some of them have 2 humps. Camel case is where you do this. First character is lowercase. First character of the second word is uppercase, okay? Now, I'm bringing this up about style because we don't necessarily want to use camel case in class names, IDs, or named attributes. We want to follow, more particularly this pattern, where we put a dash in it. Okay? That's just the stylistic pattern that the rest of the world is following. So it's important that we do that. And there's a lot of people who make a big deal about it. So, if you go to get, interviewed a job and you're just naming it whatever, they're going to go, oh, what is that meme that guy does? It sounds like, you sound like an Indian guy. He goes, brother, oh, ooh, what's that? Right? Yeah.
That Muslim guy?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, don't do it out of style, because people are going to go, ooh, what's that? All right, anyways, this is the standard way everyone usually does it. But you can, if you want, you can make it, camel case, or you can put an underscore. Again, if you do that, this is actually 2 classes, 2 separate style classes. Okay? So, I created a style class here inside of an article, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say article, because that is the tag that it is, and I'm going to do dot. Let's see if it'll autocomplete. No, I won't autocomplete. So it is weekly task OL, and then of course, I can do the same thing that we have right here. Let's take this and Just do that. Right? So I've got my parent object, I've got the class of that article, and then I've got the ordered list. Now, think about why that would be important, right? If you've got a huge document and you have one article that does it one way, you have a section, literally a section that's going to do it another way, it's important then to lay out which articles have which classes and which sections have which classes that contain how you want all of your styles to cascade down and be effective. Okay? Any questions so far? Any questions? Another common use of lists in general is the navigation. Since HTML5, they included the new tag called the nav tag. And the nav tag actually is supposed to reside in something called the header tag. And what this is supposed to be is represent that bar that runs across the top of a page and where you will put your navigation, your menu. So a very common use case of the unordered list is to use this navigation principle. So here I've got list. I'm going to do a couple more here. Maybe we'll do about, contacts, right? So I've got some different things laid out. Let's see here if I can minimize. There we go. Got some different things laid out. I've got a header, a nav, and an unordered list. And right now it's showing up at the top, but I want it to show up across. All right, so let's lay out some styles here. I'm going to say, here's my header, nav, and I'm going to give a background color. Whoops. Background color, and for our purposes, I'm just going to make it black. Okay? I'm going to say that the font colors, the text, is going to be white. Okay? Now that lays out that top portion, and if I was to come over here and I can't do it on that page. Let me come over to the Chrome window again. If I come over here and I inspect it, you can see that here is my header, right? And there's the nav, and then here's the style that I specified, right? We can also see that there is a padding that's occurring. And we're going to deal with some of that a little bit later on, because we may not want this padding to persist across. So I'm going to go back to Visual Studio Code. Okay. Let's talk about how we get that list type. Right now, I've got my, where's it at? I've got an unordered list type up here at the top. I'm going to take this out. Stop. There we go. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say for my header, nav, unordered list, I'm going to have a list type of none. That's going to force that. Okay. And I'm going to do my line height I'm going to say it's 2EM. So now I'm giving some spacing in between these things. Okay? But I also want this, this header, I want it to lay out let's see here. How are we going to do this? I want my list headers to give me a second here. Let me look this up. There we go. Okay. We want to do a display on this, and we're going to say inline. Right? Ah, hang on. Got it on the wrong side. We'll come down here and we'll do header, nav, ul, li, and we'll do display inline. So now that forces the items to appear up here like a regular menu. Now we could take this even further, go back to our index, and we typically, most of our headers, our navigation units are some type of anchor, right? An anchor tag. So we could type a link, and we'll put home inside of that. We'll do a space, and a pipe, and so forth. So I'm going to copy this, squish this over a little bit so we can see it better. Copy this right here. We'll call this about. Copy it there. Call that contacts. All right. First thing you notice is it says blue, and we don't necessarily like blue, for it's not good contrast. So again, we can take our idea of specifying the child element, and we could do our nav, ul, li, anchor, and we could say color is, let's do Alice blue. That looks good to me. We'll do text, decoration, and we'll say none. Okay, so now we have this kind of layout using an unordered list to lay out a menu style. All right, any questions so far? These are all using unordered lists and ordered lists. Okay? Now we're going to get into it a little bit later, but the other thing that you can do here is you could do this. You could do nav, ul, li, a, and a pseudocode of hover. And the pseudocode is an actual action. It says when I hover, this is going to change. Well, we could say for our pseudo text, that action would be that the color would turn maybe silver. So now it gives us a bit of an action, right? There's other things that you could do as well with these. One of them is you can actually do a content before or a content after on hover, and you can force a little caret symbol to come in. All these are different things that you can accomplish. All right, I don't want to go too fast because I'm often accused of turning on the fire hose and then you all just drowning. So if you're drowning, raise your hand. Everyone good? Okay. All right, so let's talk about other things that you can do with your list item. One of the interesting things we could do with it, let's go to our, save this, we're going to come back to our index. We have a piece down here, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it around that section. Wrap the unordered list inside the section, this piece down here. And I'm going to give this an H3 and sample tasks. Okay? This is something we have down here at the bottom. All right. What if I wanted to change this bullet to something completely different? Like maybe I wanted to use my own image. Well, I downloaded some images, okay? And if you want to, this is very simple to do. Just go out into Google and you could type in as a sample, check icon with transparent background. And all you want to do is find one, like here looks like a good one. And because it changed on us there and put that checkered background, we know that's a check. It's a transparent item. So you can click on it, save image as, and I'm going to save it directly to my images folder. Okay? So I'm going to save it there. Take your time and find some type of image that you want to be to replace a bullet or a circle, right? Find something. I recommend the easy one is just to do the check item. And when you're ready, let me know. Okay?
Mr. Rogers, how did you open up that window?
Right there? This one?
Yeah.
You just go to the index and you right click and show preview.
Oh, click on it.
Yeah. Okay. We'll give just a couple of more minutes here on finding that. I want to make sure that we end our class on time today. We've got, it's already 4:30. It's already been an hour. We've got about 20 minutes left of class. So while we're waiting, I'm going to go ahead and go to my style, and I'm going to use my, let's see, it was section, UL, and make sure that was section UL, yep. And I'm going to say list style image, and we're going to use URL, and inside the URL we'll go ahead and we'll type, let's see, / images, and I'm going to use my -PNG. Okay, now nothing happened over there, so I'm going to go to my other screen. It's a little bit bigger, and go to the console, UL, LI, wrong one, section, UL, All right, so there it is. Why didn't it display? This is the question. Let's go back. See what's happening here. Nothing. All right, so it was that. Element. Okay, there's the object. See, list, style, type, position, and outside. Let's see if we can figure this out real quick. I think it has to do with the location of my image. So what I'm going to do right now is just drop this up there, and I'm going to say that. Did that do it? No, it did not. I think the images are there, it's just they're too big. All right, we're going to come back to that one because we've got 10 minutes left. So if you want to, I want you to research on how to work this. Otherwise, I will make sure it's available to you for the next class. But I want to go ahead and go over some of the other things concerning the, where's it at? This is working with margins and positions, okay? So let me drop back over here again. And if I right click and inspect, this is in Chrome, and Chrome will automatically show you what the padding is and what the margin is, okay? So padding is, let me pull this over so you can see a little bit. Padding is what is initially around an object, and then you have a border, and then you have the margin, which is outside the outer edge of that object. And the best way to display this is, we're going to come over here to an index, and we've got our section. So I'm going to come in and say section border 1px solid black. Okay, so I've created a CSS piece here aligned to the section selector, and I've said it has a border of 1px solid in black. Okay, Now, if I come back over here and I highlight, I inspect that, we can see that here is the section, and it automatically, there is on the section, it gives us the exact dimensions of it. It's 1,264 pixels by 1,625.44, right? You can also see that right here. This is the tool that they give us. So this is the absolute section. And because there is no padding right now, the border is 1 pixel, which is that outer line. So what happens if I come back in here and I say a padding of 1 EM? Well, now we see that it padded around this, this sample task, okay? And the sample task, if you remember, is the H1 here, or the H3, excuse me, okay? So we'll come back over here and look at it. 1 EM is 16 pixels for the padding. And again, this is inside the border. This seems kind of, for many of you, this is going to seem like splicing hairs, but this is where madness will occur for some of you. Because you're going to be like, I can't get rid of the stinking spacing. And it's all about that border, padding, and margin. Okay, border, padding, and margin. So I'm teaching you right now how to use the Chrome tool to see it so that you'll know what the padding is. You know that we specified a border of 1 pixel and there is no margin. So let's look at what happens when we add a margin. So we'll come back in, we'll say margin, and I'm going to do just 10 pixels. So now the spacing around the spacing for the border didn't change. The distance from the sample task to this didn't change. But what did change was now there is an outside margin. Okay? So there's your border, there's your padding, and then the content in the inside. All right? This is very important that you kind of pay attention to this because this will come back and bite you. So there's many ways you can actually adjust the padding. What time does the class end? 4:56. All right, so we got about 10 minutes. There's many ways you can adjust the padding. When you do padding 1 EM, that basically says all corners are going to have the same amount. But you can also control that. You can say, I only want that on the top. And for padding on the left, I'll just do 5 pixels. So you can see at the top, it has that bigger padding. The left, it has only 5 pixels. Same is true for margin. You can do it top, left, right, and bottom. But if you don't do any, it's controlled right here. And you can also control how it's done through just putting it right here in padding. The makers of CSS have decided that would be beneficial to create a padding in the first character would be, see, I'm going to do 5 pixels for the top, 10 pixels for the right, 5 pixels for the bottom, and 10 pixels for the left. So top, right, bottom, left. You got to think top, right, bottom, left. It goes clockwise around the section. Same thing works for the margin. Top, right, bottom, left. You can specify it You can specify it shorthand by doing it this way, or you can specify it absolute by saying padding left, padding top, padding bottom. All right, any questions? All right, let's show you a couple other things that you can do here. Margins are the same way. We already talked about those. Pseudocode and pseudo-elements. Okay? So let me, I'm going to switch back over here to Chrome. And we're going to just put these up on the screen so you can see them. Pseudo-classes. There we go. W3 Schools always has a great list. Let's see. Are they not going to give me a list? They're not going to give me a list. So the most common for these, for pseudo classes, are things that you would put after an anchor tag. So you have anchor, if it's colon a link, you change the color. If it's visited, meaning you've clicked on it and it's in your history, the color will change. Colon hover gives you the ability to change it when you hover over it, or colon active, like so. Now there's other things you can do with this as well. You can add a hover onto a pre-existing class. You can do things like that. You can do it on divs. It doesn't have to be on an anchor tag. So for example, we could do a div, and inside the div, some text I am typing. We'll see that way, way, way down at the bottom. And so if we do a style on this, we could say div, hover, color is blue on hover. Okay? Scroll down to the bottom, and there it is. When you hover over it, it changes the color. Or you could tell it to change the background color. I'm going to take this out for a second so that will not be so annoying. All right, so now the background color will change on hover. These are called pseudo classes because they're not necessarily a class, but they're programmatically available for everything. You can also do things in your style where you could say div first. Let's see. Let's do the section instead. Section UL, and we'll say the first child. We want the first child to be color blue. Does that work? Or is it LI? There we go. It has to be on the list item, but you could control the list item that way. Or you could say, instead of first child, you could say the nth of type. And we'll just do the second. You could specify a number and control it that way. There's other things you could do where you could say, I want the language, if it's English, to use something special. If it's Chinese, do it another way. If it's Japanese, you could specify all of those. There's also, which is a new one they've added, it's kind of exciting, not. So you could say when something is not an anchor. And as you can see, all of these change because these are not anchors. Or I could say if it's not a, what do we have in our index over here? We just have list items, right? Yeah, so not anchor, and it makes them all blue. Not is a nice way of saying, do everything except when it's this. Make this different, okay? By the way, all of this is in your, does anyone know who that was? Huh? Okay. No, there was a lady who came in. All right. So all of these are available in your reading. Please make sure you look at your reading. You're going to see these in the quizzes. Let's see, what else are we looking at? You can also generate content. So for example, in my style, I could have section, UL, LI, and let me get it ready here and I'll give you the right one. You would use a double colon for these, and we would say after, and this is where we would say content, and then the text. So you can actually add content to the HTML behind the scenes with the after or before. And there's different values you could use there as well. You could also you can add an attribute to some things. You could add images after the fact. It's all up to you. The big common one that we see a lot is the usage of special characters like the big quote mark. When you have a text, like an article, and there is a quote from somebody, they'll blow it up and then they'll use the before content. So, where'd my mouse go? They'll use the before. You can see it popped it into the front, and they'll use the quote, which is let's see, am I doing it wrong? Yeah, there you go, open quote. So it'll create the open quote on it. All right. Guys, there's a lot here, a lot of details. You know, pay attention to what you have, what's in your textbook, and make sure that you run through the different options that are available. So we have 00AB. You can also use the Unicode characters in this as well. Okay, I'm just going to put a space there. I think it'll allow me to do a space. No. Any questions for today?
Can I ask?
Yes.
So those are like the examples that you might gonna use for next week.
Yep, these are the samples for this week. Okay. Now I do want to point out this week you have 1, 2, 3, 4 coding challenges down here at the bottom. And then you have a quiz as well that goes over the 2.3 content. Okay? All right? And that is it for today.